Ikechukwu stood by the bar, his eyes scanning the room filled with laughter and music. It was his best friend, Emeka's birthday party, and he was about to go over to greet him when someone bumped into him. Startled, Ikechukwu turned around and found himself looking into the eyes of a stunning woman. "I'm so sorry," Ikechukwu apologized quickly, taking a step back. "I didn't see you there." The woman smiled, a soft, enchanting smile. "No harm done. It's a party, after all." Her voice was smooth, like velvet. "I'm Ikechukwu," he introduced himself, extending a hand. "Uju," she replied, shaking his hand gently. Their hands lingered for a moment longer than necessary. When they were about to part ways, Ike felt a connection with her and offered her a drink. "Would you like to get a drink?" he proffered. "Sure." Uju agreed, and they made their way to the bar. They spent the rest of the evening talking, laughing, and getting to know each other. Ikechukwu found Uju to be intelligent, funny, and charming, everything he could ask for in a woman. By the end of the night, they had exchanged numbers and made plans to see each other again. Over the next few weeks, their friendship blossomed into a romance that seemed almost too perfect. He took her out on dates. Ikechukwu was an entrepreneur who owned a construction company. Prior to meeting Uju, his business was not doing so well. Since Uju entered his life, his construction firm has thrived. He secured contracts worth millions of naira and credited his success to Uju. After dinner at a cozy restaurant, he decided to introduce Uju to his family. "Uju, I'd like you to meet my mother and sister. They mean the world to me," Ikechukwu said as they walked hand in hand down the street. "I'd love that," Uju responded with a warm smile. A few days later, they traveled to Okele. Uju met Ugozi and Uneka at their family home. Ugozi welcomed Uju with open arms, and Uneka quickly took a liking to her. They chatted over dinner, and by the end of the night, Uju felt like part of the family. "I'm so happy for you, Ike," Uneka said after Uju had left them to have a private chat together. "She's wonderful." "Yes, she is," Ikechukwu agreed, feeling content. Their relationship became stronger with each passing day. Ike was grateful to have met Uju, who had a significant impact on his life. One afternoon, Ike decided to surprise Uju at the salon where she was getting her hair done. He had contacted her earlier to see where she was, unaware that Ike had prepared a surprise for her. She gave him her location. A few minutes later, he appeared into the salon with flowers in his hands. Uju was surprised to see him in the salon, then he brought a ring and knelt down. "Uju, since you came into my life, nothing has remained the same. You've brought joy and happiness into my life. I do not think I can live without you. Will you please do me the honor of becoming my wife?" Ike spoke, his eyes brimming with sincerity and love. "Yes, I will marry you, Ike," Uju exclaimed, enthusiastically. Everyone in the salon cheered for them. Ike was thrilled that Uju had accepted his proposal. That night, he called his mother and told her about his proposal. His mother was pleased for him and hoped for a happy marriage. One peaceful evening, as Ike and Uju were having a good time together, Ike had promised Uju a magnificent wedding in London. He had informed her that she was worth every penny to him, and he is going to work extremely hard to make his ambition a reality. Uju felt relieved that she had found the ideal man for her. They hugged one another. One airy night, Ugozi had a disturbing dream while asleep. She saw Uju, dressed in a red wrapper, standing in a dark forest, surrounded by other women who were laughing wickedly. Uju's eyes were cold and distant, and the sight sent chills down Ugozi's spine. Ugozi awoke frightened, placing her hand on her chest. "What type of terrifying dream is this? Could this be a warning? But Uju appears to be a nice lady that cannot kill a fly," she whispered to herself. The next morning, she went to see her friend Ogechi, who has the gift of interpreting dreams. She described her dream from the previous night to Ogechi. "What? That is an indicator of warning for your son. You need to call your son as soon as possible and advise him to end his relationship with her, or else it may not end well," said Ogechi. Ugozi was apprehensive about how she would tell her son and warn him about Uju. After all, they are engaged to get married, she whispered to herself. Maybe it's just her imagination. Eventually, she decided to call him. Ike was in his office working when his phone buzzed. He picked the call. "Hello mama, good afternoon." "Good afternoon my son. How are you?" "Fine mama, hope all is well," Ike said. My son, all is well. I have something to tell you. Please don't take any offense. My son, I had a strange dream last night, she began, her voice filled with concern. Ikechukwu countenance changed. What did you dream about, Mama? Ugozi hesitated before speaking. I saw Uju, but she wasn't herself. She was wearing a red wrapper, and there were other women with her, laughing. It was Eri, Ike. I don't trust that girl. Ikechukwu sighed. Mama, you scared me. I thought it was something serious. It was just a dream. Uju has been nothing but good to me. Ever since we started dating, my life has improved. I am sure you can testify to it, Mama. I've won contracts, and everything is going well. Maybe you just need time to get used to her. But Ike, dreams can be warnings, Ugozi insisted. I'm not saying she's bad, but please be careful. Pray about it. I will, Mama, Ikechukwu promised, though he had no intention of letting a dream ruin his relationship. But I'm sure it's nothing. They ended their conversation. As the weeks passed, Ikechukwu introduced Uju to more of his friends and eventually met her family. They seemed like good people, and Ikechukwu's love for Uju only grew stronger. Everything seemed perfect until one day, Ikechukwu's life began to unravel. He lost a major contract, which was supposed to be his big break, and his finances began to crumble. He had to sell one of his cars to keep up with expenses. Through it all, Uju remained by his side, offering comfort and encouragement. Don't worry, Ike, Uju said one evening, holding his hand. This is just a setback. We'll get through this together. I don't know what I'd do without you, Ikechukwu replied, grateful for her support, but despite Uju's reassurances, Ikechukwu's problems persisted. The more he tried to fix things, the worse they became. He was drowning in debt, and the once bright future he had envisioned was slipping away. One evening, as Ikechukwu sat in his living room brooding over his predicament, his phone rang. It was a call from an international number. Hello, Ikechukwu answered, his voice weary. Is this Mr. Ikechukwu? The voice on the other end asked. Yes, this is he, Ikechukwu confirmed. This is Mr. Dave Rees from Amsterdam Enterprises. We've reviewed your portfolio and would like to offer you a contract. We need you to come to the Netherlands in 4 days for a final meeting. We've already taken care of your visa, but you'll need to book your flight. Ikechukwu's heart leaped. Thank you so much, Mr. Dave Rees. I'll make the arrangements right away. After ending the call, Ikechukwu rushed to the kitchen where Uju was preparing dinner. Uju, you won't believe it. I've been offered a contract in the Netherlands. This could be the breakthrough I've been praying for. That's wonderful news, Ike. Uju exclaimed, wrapping her arms around him. I knew things would turn around for us. Ikechukwu quickly called his mother to share the good news. Mama, I've just been offered a contract abroad. I need to travel in a few days. Ugozi's voice was cautious. That's great news, my son. But please, remember to pray. I will, Mama, Ikechukwu assured her, though his mind was already focused on the upcoming trip. The next day, Ikechukwu booked his flight and made preparations for the journey. He and Uju went shopping for new clothes and travel essentials. As they returned home, Ikechukwu decided to pack his luggage and put his passport in a safe place. I should keep my passport in my bag now, so I don't forget it later, Ikechukwu said, opening the drawer where he always kept it. But when he looked inside, the passport was gone. Ikechukwu frowned and searched the entire drawer, then his wardrobe, and then the whole room. Uju, have you seen my passport? Ikechukwu called out, his voice tinged with panic. No, I haven't, Uju replied, walking into the room. Are you sure you put it there? I'm positive, Ikechukwu insisted. I always keep it in this drawer. They spent the next hour searching the entire house, but the passport was nowhere to be found. Ikechukwu was devastated. How could this happen now? He muttered, running a hand through his hair. I only have 2 days left to travel. Uju put on a concerned face. Don't worry, Ike. Maybe it's just misplaced. We'll find it. But Ikechukwu couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. He barely slept that night, tossing and turning, plagued by thoughts of his missing passport. The next morning, he called his mother. Mama, my passport is missing. I've searched everywhere, and I can't find it. Ugozi's voice was filled with alarm. Ike, this is not ordinary. Come to the house immediately. We need to pray. Ikechukwu hesitated. But Uju wants to come with me. She's been helping me search. Ugozi was firm. No, Ike. Come alone. This is serious. But when Ikechukwu told Uju, she insisted on going with him. Ike, I want to be there for you. We're in this together. Reluctantly, Ikechukwu agreed, and they both traveled to his mother's house. Ugozi welcomed them, though her eyes lingered on Uju with suspicion. Let's go to church, Ugozi said after a brief discussion. We need divine intervention. They attended a church service that evening. During the ministration, the pastor suddenly paused and looked directly at Ikechukwu. There is a man here who has been offered a contract abroad, the pastor began, his voice serious. You were supposed to travel, but your passport is missing. If you're that man, come forward. Ikechukwu's heart raced. The pastor had described his situation exactly. He stood up, his legs feeling weak, and walked to the front of the church. Are you the one? The pastor asked, his eyes piercing into Ikechukwu's soul. Yes, pastor, Ikechukwu replied, his voice trembling. The pastor nodded solemnly. You have a fiancée, don't you? Yes, pastor, Ikechukwu confirmed. Is she here with you? The pastor asked. Ikechukwu hesitated, then nodded. Yes, pastor. Her name is Uju. The pastor's gaze shifted to the congregation. Uju, come forward, he called out. Uju, who had been sitting quietly, stood up and walked to the front, her face a mask of concern. Pastor, I don't know what's happening, but I'm here to support Ikechukwu. The pastor looked at her intently. Your mother is here too, isn't she? He asked Ikechukwu. Yes, pastor. She's right there, Ikechukwu said, pointing to Ugozi, who was sitting in the second row. Ugozi stood up and joined them at the front, her heart pounding with anxiety. The pastor turned his attention back to Uju. Woman, why are you making this young man suffer? He asked, his voice stern. Uju's eyes widened in shock, and her expression hardened into one of anger that Ikechukwu had never seen before. What are you talking about, pastor? I love Ikechukwu. I would never hurt him. The pastor shook his head. You know what I'm talking about. You have been deceiving this man and hiding your true nature. But today, the truth will be revealed. You're all probably asking why the pastor called out Uju. A sinister secret lay beneath the perfect facade of their relationship. Uju belonged to a secret cult, whose aim was to spiritually bind and destroy any man they captured. Her presence created the illusion of affluence, concealing the impending doom. During one of their secret meetings, the Queen Mother addressed her people, her voice booming through that chamber. Go forth, my daughters. Capture men's hearts, bind them to our will, and bring them to ruin. The one who succeeds first will sit beside me as the new Queen Mother. Hearing this, Uju became determined to succeed first and complete the mission. One day, as she was walking down the street, she overheard some ladies discussing how ready and delighted they are to attend a large birthday party for a popular affluent guy who had recently come from the United States. The guy turned out to be Ikechukwu's friend, Emeka. She viewed this as an opportunity to begin her quest, so she gathered information and was able to attend the party. When she arrived at the party, she scanned the room and quickly saw Ikechukwu, who appeared to be an easy target for her. She utilized her attractive appeal to entice Ikechukwu, who fell into her trap at the party. As he spoke, the pastor took a small bottle of anointing oil from his pocket and began to sprinkle it on Uju. Instantly, Uju recoiled, letting out a scream that echoed through the church. Her body trembled violently, and she fell to the ground, writhing in pain. The congregation gasped in horror as Uju's appearance began to change before their eyes. Her beautiful features twisted into a grotesque mask of rage, and her clothing transformed into a red wrapper with white symbols, a mirror image of the woman in Ugozi's dream. No, Uju screamed, her voice now distorted and filled with malice. You can't do this to me. Ikechukwu stumbled back, his mind struggling to comprehend what he was witnessing. This wasn't the woman he had fallen in love with. He looked at his mother, whose face was filled with a mixture of fear and sadness. The pastor stepped forward, holding his Bible aloft. In the name of Jesus, I command you to confess your deeds. Uju's body convulsed, and she let out a guttural cry. I was sent to destroy him. She screamed. To ruin his life and bring him to nothing. It's what we do. I took his passport. I hid it to stop him from leaving, to keep him under my control. Ikechukwu felt as if the ground had fallen out from under him. He covered his face with his hands, tears streaming down his cheeks. How could he have been so blind? The pastor continued to pray fervently, his voice strong and unwavering. Return what you have stolen, and leave this man's life forever. With a final, piercing scream, Uju reached into the air, and suddenly, Ikechukwu's passport materialized in her hand. She threw it to the ground, where it landed at Ikechukwu's feet. The pastor picked up the passport and handed it to Ikechukwu, who was shaking uncontrollably. You are free, my son, the pastor said softly. God has delivered you. The pastor then turned back to Uju, who was still on the ground, her breathing ragged. In the name of Jesus, I command you to leave this place and never return. A bright light suddenly enveloped Uju, and with a final, agonized cry, she disappeared, leaving behind only a faint wisp of smoke. The church was silent, the congregation too stunned to speak. Ikechukwu collapsed to his knees, sobbing. Ugozi rushed to his side, wrapping her arms around him. I'm so sorry, Mama, Ikechukwu cried. I should have listened to you. Ugozi held him close, her own tears falling. It's over now, my son. God has saved you. The pastor placed a comforting hand on Ikechukwu's shoulder. You have been through a great trial, but God's mercy is greater. You are now free from the chains that bound you. The congregation erupted in praise, thanking God for the miracle they had just witnessed. Ikechukwu slowly stood up, his legs weak but his heart filled with gratitude. Thank you, Pastor, Ikechukwu said, his voice hoarse from crying. Thank you for saving me. It is not I who saved you but God, the pastor replied gently. Remember to always seek him first in all things. Ikechukwu nodded, his mind racing with the events of the day. He looked at his passport, still in his trembling hand, and knew that he had been given a second chance. Later that evening, after returning to his mother's home, Ikechukwu called the airline and confirmed his flight. He would be leaving for the Netherlands the next day. But this time, he would be going with a renewed faith in God and a heart full of gratitude. Before he left, Ikechukwu knelt before his mother, taking her hands in his. Mama, I will never doubt you again, he said earnestly. Thank you for your prayers and your love. I owe everything to you. Ugozi smiled through her tears, placing her hand on his head in a blessing. Go in peace, my son. God will be with you. The next day, Ikechukwu boarded his flight to the Netherlands, his heart lighter than it had been in weeks. The meeting went well, and he was awarded the contract. His life began to flourish once again, but this time, he knew better than to take anything for granted. Ikechukwu returned home with a renewed sense of purpose, determined to live his life with integrity and faith. He never forgot the lessons he had learned, and he remained close to his family, always seeking their counsel and support. As for Uju, she was never seen or heard from again. The memory of her faded into the shadows, a distant reminder of the dangers that lurk behind even the most beautiful of faces. And so, Ikechukwu moved forward, his heart filled with gratitude, his spirit renewed, and his eyes forever open to the truth. This story teaches us that not all that glitters is gold, and that we should not take things for granted. It also teaches us to pray, so that we would not be an easy target for the evil ones. What other lessons have you learned? Let me know in the comment section. Don't forget to like, share, and hit the notification bell. See you in my next tale. Bye for now.